have an incredible special guest here. I'm hoping you guys recognize this gentleman's face. He's been here a few times to go ahead and walk us through how he's been able to build a multi-seven-figure e-commerce brand from scratch in the BSF actual experience, right? We're going to be walking you guys through here today is how to actually generate consistency, how Luke has actually done this from scratch, and how he's been generating consistency with his brand every single day for literally years at this point, which is really, really awesome, guys. So thank you so much for taking the time today to actually go ahead and hop on with me, man. How you doing today, Luke?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I mean, anytime I get to talk with you and the BSF team, it's always a pleasure. It's always fun. You know, love your guys' energy. It's inspiring, honestly. Like when I meet with you guys or just talk with you guys, you know, I mean, even in the program, like I just get excited because, you know, there's something to be excited about, right? Because the thing you have can actually change someone's life, you know, so change mine for it's better. That's for damn sure. But that's why I get so pumped up. You know, it's always a good time and it's always a pleasure.
Right. The goal here is to actually have real consistency, not to just talk about it. Right. A lot of people in the game, they won't show you proper systems. They won't have proper fluency, and they're kind of relying on randomly throwing stuff to the wall, hoping it sticks. It's not the way to go about it. You got to have proper fluency. So first and foremost, Luke, walk us through what your experience was like in e-commerce before you actually joined BSF. But not even talking about that. Let's just talk about starting the actual business before you even had the business. What were you doing? Why couldn't you make e-commerce work? What happened? Walk us through it, and then we'll kind of take it step by step further so everyone could kind of see that entire journey that you took to become a multi-million-dollar brand owner.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I saw a bunch of YouTube videos. And so I was like, oh, like, because, you know, on the YouTube videos are like, oh, it's so easy. You know, you just sell this product or sell that product and throw it up on Facebook and it's going to work. Right. And like, oh, this should be like super simple. I needed money to pay off some debts and whatnot. So I was like, oh, this is a great idea. Like, seems pretty straightforward. Let me give it a shot. Right. So I started like, I think it was like 8 to 10 different stores, every single like new product. I came up with like a new concept, like every 2 weeks. My family, like members were like, Luke, what the heck is going on? What are you doing? But yeah, every single one of those stores just didn't work. And part of that is because I didn't really have the infrastructure. I didn't really have like underlying understanding of like how to actually reach my audience, like how to talk to them, how to actually sell a product, right? Like I didn't really have a lot of that experience. I was more of like a IT guy. Like I'm kind of a nerd. Anybody, in my opinion, can learn these sort of systems. If it's coming from me, who like literally failed like 8 to 10 times, you know, I actually was like, to your point, Justin, very dedicated. And I realized I think I quit for 2 years. I quit dropshipping for like 2 years and I was just doing a lot of coding. And then I like was in a position where I'm like, gosh, like I hate kind of like forking over my time, just getting like a certain rate every single hour. It can get exhausting. It's hard to keep up with something like that. Right. So I knew when I started again, doing e-commerce that I need to do something different. And I remember Justin, I always see these like random it was in my Facebook feed. And I like see these like little like, Justin's awesome. BSF is awesome. We're like, there's something going on here. I'm seeing results like no other groups are showing results like these. So I'm like, okay, when I do it this time, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to get the help. Like part of growing, in my opinion, is saying like, I need help, you know, is like, I actually need help. I'm not perfect. You know, I think everybody, and no matter where you're at, is like, you kind of need help to get to the next level. Sometimes you can't just do it yourself because you don't really know enough. Or you're not experienced enough. So you definitely need someone to help guide you to the right direction.
I love the fact that you understand that at first, right, you didn't have that kind of guidance. You did try it out yourself, which is good, right? Everyone should give it a shot, right? But then when you went through it, you really realized that, look, my time is better invested when I'm actually on the right path and I'm doing things right from the start. And I'm going to save more money that way at the end of the day.
It's funny, when I first joined BSF, I started going to the university. I already had an existing store. So I already kind of kicked something off. It was a furniture company, classic drop shipping. We had like 500 products. And when I first joined BSF, I was like, whoa, like the thing is, it's a lot of content. So you have to like, it's kind of like you're a student, right? Like I kind of back to being a bit of a student here. I need to take notes. I need to be like on top of it, make sure I'm capturing everything. And I remember it was like the first call, or like, it was one of my first posts. I'm like, hey, I have this existing store. I know you have the structure. I know you like have this recommended layout. What do you think of the store? I mean, basically it was like, yeah, this is not good. Look, you need to. So I literally remember I went to my store and I just like clicked the checkbox and deleted like every single product and completely like just scrapped the whole idea. But like, that's what it takes. And like, the thing is, I will say that like the amount of clarity I got from the course and like what I need to do was pretty clear. But what's cool about that is like, even if I was like a little unsure, I'm like, man, I already have the store. I already put all this work in. What's cool about it is I was able to ask the team, hey, what do you think? And they just gave me real honest feedback that I needed. I needed to hear, hey, store isn't that great. It needs to follow the system. So all I did was scrap that store and I just followed the steps within the program. And to your point, Justin, like, what's cool about that is it's like relatively straightforward. I knew exactly what I needed to do, but it's always nice to be able to like, you know, say, hey, I'm a little unsure about this. What do you think? And I'm always getting that I was always getting that feedback that I needed, like real time, basically. I mean, within minutes, basically, I was getting feedback. So
Right.
It was almost like a shock of like how much value there was in there. I was like, whoa, like this is next level stuff right here. Like I need to like really like get into this system because like this seems like a really like way different from what I'm doing, which is exactly, again, what I was looking for. So the thing is, if you're not really sure how to do something, you shouldn't have any pride or ego in it, right? Like you shouldn't really be like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. But I didn't have that. I just knew I didn't know what I was doing. And I knew that Justin and the BSF team knew what they were doing. So all I knew is just to follow their steps. And that's pretty much all I did. I just followed that system from A to Z, basically.
When you have systems like this, like walk me through, like when you started off, it wasn't just all sunshines, daisies, and rainbows. Like there was some volatility. Like Wendy, you're right.
Yes.
Like when we're doing 10, 15,
Yes.
20K a month, right? Yes, at the end of the month, we see 20K a month, but the day to day seems like it was volatile. But at the end of the month, oh, wow, I did 20,000. Walk me through it. What your store was you have a multi-million-dollar brand now. It was very volatile and uncertain at first. I remember saying several times, don't let one day dictate the rest of your week, the rest of the month. Walk us through that. Is it always sunshines, daisies, and profits at the first start of things? Is it always consistent linear growth? Or is there volatility that happens before that $1 million brand becomes a $1 million brand?
I actually remember I actually had a quote unquote winning product, but it was like a low margin product, right? And so even when I was in BSF, I was trying to navigate that product. I was like, I'm not really sure if it's going to work, blah, blah, blah. So we actually got to, I think the second or third step in the system, basically. And then we realized, you know what, this project, the margins aren't good enough. So, but yeah, so like even in BSF, I had like a situation where I was like, oh my gosh. And then it's just like, basically the margins were so low, we're kind of just breaking even. So then the next product, I think the next product came along. And to your point, Justin, when I first started out, like, I think the first 3 days were just absolutely like bonkers. It went from like, it was like 1 sale, 3 sales, 6 sales. And then I remember like on the 4th or 5th day, for whatever reason, I mean, this is just how it is. Like the world is not the same every single day. And I remember I had like a few days where I was like, oh, Justin, like I'm losing like momentum, right? Like I'm not like 3Xing my sales or something. and I remember specifically, you're like, just hang on, just let it run, just like clean up your ad sets, right? Just stick to the system, stick to what we preach, do the 3-day rule, which is basically just a rule that helps you clean up your ad sets and make sure you keep things tight. You're not overspending where you shouldn't be. So yeah, in the beginning, it was definitely high variance. And I'm like, what the heck? But then once we got into like a certain point in the system, so I think the micro big bang is where like things really, I mean, it was just ridiculous. Like I know we had to hang on for a little bit. There was like 2 or 3, 4 days. Then things started to kind of pick back up. It was starting to learn, you know, my customer's avatar and whatnot. But then I remember like the micro big bang, that's when like the money was just like the number of sales were like over $1,000, if not more than that. And things really started to get more consistent where I could pretty much rely on that on a day-to-day basis. So once you kind of get through like the weeds of the first, like, I don't know, like first 100, 200 sales or something like that, as long as the product is a good one, it really can create a lot of consistency using the system itself. I mean, that's what happened to me. We were doing like 10K days at some point, 10, 12K days.
You looked at things on more of a weekly basis rather than a day-to-day basis. And that ultimately, looking back, is what enabled you to be the multi-million-dollar brand owner that you now are. Because let's say you killed those audiences or killed those campaigns and then killed that product. Imagine we killed that product because we couldn't take that 1 day of bad ad spend. Can you imagine we couldn't take a 1 day of $300 loss, right, in order to make $600 the next day? Imagine we couldn't take that. How different would things be if we turn those ads off? Why would we ever want to run a business that's not going to be here next month, next year, etc.? We need to go ahead and build a business that has longevity and has consistency. So, Luke, as you know, the Peanut Gallery and Johnny Pooput, right, we'll go ahead and walk you through how to run up a business in a month and do 500K in a month. And then you got no business next month. Like, walk me through the difference in linear scale and how that affects your life, having kids and a wife and a real life going on, and how up and down like that is not an option. We need long-term consistency and a long-term brand because we treat this like an asset, not a 2-week pump and dump like half these other guys will. Walk us through the difference, Luke. And your store is proven and is, been running. You make your money every single day. Multi-million-dollar brand built from zero right here at BSF. Walk us through the difference between actually having consistency and not.
Yeah, I mean, that's a super important component, right? Is having a level of consistency and level of trust. Because the thing about entrepreneurship is like, it can be very high variance if you're not doing it the right way. Like it can be like exactly like Justin is saying, where you make 20 grand one day and you make zero for like the next 7. So it's definitely important to kind of gradually scale something. So like, and not going too fast to where like, that's something that I think a lot of people don't get into the weeds of because it's hard, it's complicated, it's a little bit, trickier to navigate. Like I think they like to kind of avoid all those things. Whereas like Justin and the BSF team, they jump in, they're like, oh no, how can we help? You got fulfillment problems. How can we help you with that? Like it's definitely a different world too. So I think that level of consistency is key. And the systems actually, prescribed here actually provide that level of consistency. And it's a level of like, peace, I would say, to where it's like, it's going to be okay. Like I got it. Like there's always going to be something in your business you got to figure out. But the thing is, if you have the right systems and tools in place, like you just like, it's going to be fine. It'll be fine at the end of the day. I'll be honest. I made a mistake of like buying way too much inventory. I bought like 100 grand worth of inventory. Let's just say I didn't have 100 grand to bank. So that was a lesson learned that I probably bought way too much. I overinvested in inventory, but I was able to, actually sell through that pretty easily with the systems that we have. What's that?
Good thing we were able to sell it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I definitely learned my lesson there. But yeah, it's like when you have that level of consistency, and I had the data to back it. I wasn't just spending 100 grand on inventory for no reason. I'm like, yeah, like the numbers prove it. So the thing I would say is that what happens in like these sort of systems or these sort of structures is that the data tells you kind of what to do. And I'm sure you could attest to that, Justin, within the group especially. It's like, hey, we're kind of seeing this on our ad sets. What do you think? Well, what does the data say? What do the data points tell us? The view contents, add to carts, initiate, checkout, and purchases. And at the end of the day, what's the ROAS, right? But that's something I kind of learned is like, yeah, we kind of value the gradual growth over just exploding it and then your company crumbles because you can't really support that many orders at a given point in time. Like if you're shipping 50 to 100 orders from China every single day, probably not going to go too well, right? That's a high volume amount of things going on there. And like, there's a lot that can go wrong. And then you kind of get in a situation where you start getting chargebacks. People start like, it takes 2 months or 3 months. And then you kind of run your company in the ground before it even starts.
Walk us through how you automated it. How is the brand around for a year, over 2 years? Mm-hmm. How is this brand actually a brand and not just like Johnny Pooput with a 2-week store and he's flexing screenshots back from 2017, right? Walk us through how you have great consistency, how you've built the team on the back end, and how your business is pretty much automated at this time and it's still doing millions of dollars a year.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually heavily worked on the store for like a year. I'm not even kidding.
Say that again for the people that are in the back. This is the beauty of having guys. Say that again for the people in the back there, Luke.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually actively worked on the store for like over a year. And the way I was able to do that is basically once you get some cash in the door, something that Justin and team here will advise you on is to get an assistant or a couple of assistants or basically someone to help you run your business so that you're not actively having to manage it every single day, right? Because with any new business venture, it's good for you to do everything yourself, right? It's good. You know all the ins and outs, you know all the X's and O's and whatnot, but you're going to go to a place where it's like, you know what, I want to do some other stuff with my time. And what's cool is I was able to hire actually my sister. It still works for me. But, I hired my sister to actually help on the store, help us with the ads, help us with the customer service aspect. And that actually enabled me to walk away a bit from the business and let the kind of business run itself versus me having to be there every single day. There's going to be issues like, we didn't get our inventory or, we got less inventory than we expected from the vendor. I got to go talk to the vendor. That stuff like that comes up. But I was able to actually spend a lot less time over the past year or so, just because like once you get to a certain point in the business, you start to kind of, instead of like running the business yourself, I forget the way they say it. It's like instead of running the business, you're kind of like outside looking in almost. You're kind of like being more strategic.
You want to work on the business, not really in the business.
There we go. That's what I was looking for, Justin. Thank you. That's exactly right. Because the thing is, running the actual business, and like, you already know the end part of the business, right? You already understand the operations, how things are done, where your warehouse is located, how it gets from point A to point B, how do you handle returns? All those questions you can answer in a very short time period. It's a matter of like where you actually want to take the business, right? Which is I need to kind of step away, think about it. What product should I develop? What other products should I cross sell? Like, be a bit more strategic with your business so that you're not always in the weeds, like answering customer service emails, right? So that's a progression that ends up happening where, to your point, Justin, it becomes more of an asset. It kind of comes more of a cash is coming in the door, but I'm not spending like a significant amount of time on it anymore, right? So that's definitely something that has been great because it's allowed me to like kind of go to other, like I still do a lot of full stack coding on Shopify. I still, now I'm running a cryptocurrency business, right? So it's a kind of allowed me to step away and take those profits and actually start to invest in other things that I'm interested in, or I want to do. Like, that's why I said that's a kind of a launching pad. It's not just oh yeah, I did this one thing one time. No, that level of consistency and gradual like return and scale actually helped me get into other things and kind of step away a little bit and let the business do its thing.
Right. And Luke, if you look at the profit and the amount of return that you make and you compare it toward a rental home, you'd have to spend nearly $5 to $10 million cash to go ahead and get that same return that you're getting on the store that you've built through BSF, right? And what it costs you, time, effort, and a little bit of cash, right? To go ahead and work with me and actually go ahead and gain consistency. Or you could buy a $5 million, $10 million home and rent it out, right? And then hopefully at the end of the year, you have just as much. It's crazy to think about that. You could have spent $5-10 million, right? And, had the same return as starting up a business from scratch, right? Which is crazy. And that's why I built
a really good point. It's a really good point. Cause like, that's why dropshipping is so good, or like just being in e-commerce in general is so good, is because the startup cost is so low. The thing is, I think people take this though. They're like, I can start a business with $0. That's not really true. Like, you need some money, but like, and like, what's that?
No, I totally agree. Like, how do you start a business with zero money? Like, you could start with zero money, but you're going to have a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to have a little bit. And I think what the mistake I made, Justin, was instead of investing that in like a mentorship, like BSF, for instance, I like spent that all on ads. And like, of course it didn't work. Like, yeah, of course. Like I talked to a few individuals like, hey, like, I don't know, like I'm not making that much money, like, and a few other circles I'm in. And I'm like, you probably need an advisor. And I usually bring up Justin's name when this comes up, but like, they're like, oh, but like, I've already spent enough on ads. And I'm like, okay, well, but like, you're probably not going to do that much better because again, there's a lot of different components to consider, right? And that's where the system and being well educated on e-commerce, and that's what the team can bring you. It's like you become an expert through the program, basically. And once you're an expert in a space, you know what products to look for. You know what components need to be on your landing page. You know how to run the ads. You know what kind of ads you need. Like, there's so much more to it than the YouTubers or some other influencer lead you to believe. You have to work. Like I was just talking to Justin here before this, and I'm like, there's a difference between like earning something and just being given something, right? Like, you have to earn you kind of have to pay your dues in a way. I know people say that's like cliche. Also, someone told me one time, hey, if you hear a cliche, perk your ears up. That's probably something that's going to be true. And I really do believe in that now. So like, you can't just skate by without any sort of pain, without any sort of work, without any sort of like blood, sweat, and tears. Like when I was in the program, I was waking up so early because I had I actually still have a full-time job as well, but I was waking up
on top of everything, and you still got a full-time job.
Yes. So I still manage all of these things.
Basically, you're like swimming in
there. Yeah, I mean, you could say that, but basically, I'm swimming in it, but I also like to reinvest a lot. That's kind of my danger. Sometimes it's not get a little too risky. As you know, Justin, I'm a bit of a riskier person, so I'm swimming in it. But
you've built some incredible movements and assets. So now at this point, like, you could do the job, you could do the other business, you could do the e-com store. Like you said, it was a stepping stone for you to be involved into so many different things and to create so many different assets of wealth for yourself, which is badass, man. And it's cool that it started right here.